Hi, this is Christina Marshall, and this is my proposal video presentation. And what brought me to the topic that I've chosen for this literature review and proposal has to do with teacher shortage. So I've been in the same school for 8 years, and over that time, we've had well over 50% of our teachers turnover at each and every school year. We did have a little bit lower rate this year, but that's because they asked us to reduce the number of teachers we had in our building initially, and then we had to rehire. You can see by this screenshot here, it's from OSSBA survey in 2017 that the most difficult areas to hire are special ed and then high school and middle school math. So it was really a difficult challenge for us in our math department that each and every year we had to retrain teachers on how to do basic procedures before we could even get to the content. So we had to train all these people every single year on how to utilize Infinite Campus, Mastery Connect, how to take attendance. I mean, the basics before we could even get into how do you teach algebra. And it was just really frustrating for me. And so when I kind of looked into it more, I noticed that the emergency teaching certificates had increased significantly over the past few years. And so I kind of wondered why, because I understand that we need teachers and that not every teacher will come from a traditional background, but these teachers were not staying. They were coming and staying for maybe a year or two. We even had some that left at breaks. And it was just becoming frustrating every single year. So what I found out was that around 2016, which is when you start to see a larger growth happen after that, the State Department got together and decided to have a task force that looked into the reasons why we didn't have as many people applying for alternative certificates. And they found that there were entry barriers to education. And those included the fact that you had to complete a certain number of college courses within a time period, and that we required too many tests to be taken. And how were these alternatively certified people going to get into the classroom if they would have to take classes at a university prior to getting a paycheck? And so they reevaluated the state's policies and made changes to the certification policy in the state of Oklahoma. One of the policy changes, just out of a handful that were made, is that participants in the alternative placement program must complete 6 to 18 college credit hours of professional education, which you think, okay, that's 2, 3, 4 classes that they might take at UCO or OU and learn about how to teach and get that classroom management experience. However, when you look at the second section, it says, or 90 to 270 clock hours of professional development approved by the school district. So that would include teachers going to those special sessions that we had over fall and spring break that may or may not have been of quality, but those would get approved as professional development. When teachers sign in for professional development credit during regular school days, that would give them time. And again, although those are great options, are they really enough to get someone who's gone through an alternative certification program enough experience to really do a great job in the classroom as compared to those who go through a traditional certification program through a university? It also kind of bothered me that these alternatively certified teachers had up to 3 years to complete these credit hours. However, we know that many of these teachers are not staying that long, especially in urban school environments, and we need to have high quality teachers if we're going to teach these students. So the research question that I proposed has to do with teacher quality. So I would propose to identify if differences exist between certification types and teacher quality. So are the first year teachers coming from a traditional program of the same quality as as those who are participating in an alternative certification program. And I know many of us just assume, of course, there's a difference, but there actually is some literature out there that shows that Teach for America participants actually score about the same in the area of math and science as traditional certificates. I do know that they get more assistance, but it is something to consider. And also, it really does depend possibly on the background of the person teaching. They may have had some other kind of training experience that allowed them to teach others in their previous field that would kind of give them a higher score than one might think. So, the data that we're going to be using for my proposed study is quantitative in nature because the district already uses a Marzano-focused teacher evaluation model that has a scale score that everyone receives. The sampling method would be a convenient sample simply because I'm already familiar with the district and some people in the district office. So I would select Oklahoma City Public Schools. It also gets weird in the IRB procedures because data is already being collected, so I wouldn't be collecting any new data, and the teacher identifiers would already be removed. I've seen this data come out before in a meeting, and so I know that it exists, and it codes the teachers by their ID number, which I wouldn't know who anybody was. And so I would still have to process an IRB form just to make sure, but I've been told that I most likely would not need any special forms for participants since, again, it's already something that's collected by the school district. The threats to validity are that not everyone is evaluated under this new Marzano evaluation tool. If you receive a high enough score, you're exempt for 3 years. And I'm not 100% sure which areas are actually being evaluated at each and every school site. Because, to my knowledge, the principals do not have to answer in every category area. So it may not be as equitable of a score that's received by everyone throughout the district. So once I receive that information, further analysis would need to be completed to determine if it's valid and if it'll actually work, or if perhaps we have to just use an overall score, which then has to do with how we would analyze the data. The instrument to collect the data would be the Marzano evaluation scores that are already collected. And we would use, I'm familiar with SPSS to analyze the data, and I would want to run t-tests and ANOVA. The reason why is that t-tests are if you want to compare two groups. So currently I would first sort them by alternative certificates and not alternative certificate teachers, and then their scores. Okay. But then we can compare two or more groups. And so I would want to break down, if possible, again, the Teach for America and emergency certified versus alternative certified versus traditional certification. So that would give me more than two groups. But again, I'm not 100% sure how the data will come from the district. And those are things that I need to make sure I ask for whenever I request the data from the district. I would want to see if a difference exists or not between the groups. And if no difference exists, then the policy's all right. But if there are differences in the quality of teaching that we can be seen, then we need to suggest possible policy changes and recommend that the State Department reevaluate what they've been doing and perhaps provide more supports for alternatively certified teachers, or require them to complete more training in a shorter period of time, but provide some sort of assistance. I'm not 100% sure what that would look like, as it would most likely cost more money. And as you know, we claim not to have enough money for things in education right now. But it's what we need if we're going to have quality teachers staying in our urban school districts.